Section C, items previously tabled. We do have one, which was a motion to hire a municipality of Monroeville SRO until the school police decision is decided.
Yes.
You want to speak to that?
Sure. The reason that this school board felt the need to hire a school police force was because they felt that a armed officer in every building would equate to a safer school environment. Since the beginning of school, we haven't had any armed presence with the exception of a Pitcairn SRO who is currently on medical leave. So therefore, there is no armed presence in any of our school buildings. And the Monroeville SRO did a very good job in the years that he was here. And I believe that it is important to reach out to the municipality of Monroeville and ask for the SRO at least until the school police decision is decided. I believe it's also on the agenda to have a motion to appeal the decision from Judge O'Reilly again.
No, that would be a refiling.
Refiling? Okay. So in light of that, I do make a motion, and it's currently tabled, to hire a Monroeville SRO until the school police decision is decided.
Okay, and do we, just, I guess for clarification, do we have any numbers, any figures, are we making a motion just to?
This is to reach out to the municipality and see if they would be willing, I believe they are, and see what sort of offer they would be willing to
I think that's a
give
great
to us.
idea. I would actually even broaden the motion to include just looking at other departments, looking at other individuals if it's going to be for a short period of time, and give ourselves options. See if Pitcairn has another officer available, see if the sheriffs are available. I think we should at least reach out and see what our options are if, the main thing here is safety.
The main thing is safety. However, I would strongly recommend the municipality of Monroeville simply because they do have a current SRO that is trained, that we have used in the past, that we had a very positive experience with. So why not reach out to Monroeville?
I completely agree. We should reach out to Monroeville. I think we should just have options as a board to be able to deliberate.
Well, don't we need, I'm going to interrupt, don't we need an SRO to be in the school? I mean, we just don't want to bring a police officer in that's not trained. Wouldn't it have to be a trained police officer?
No, an SRO is a certification, one of many that a lot of our law enforcement in our local communities obtain. So it's a 40-hour course that's completed over the weekend.
I had an opportunity to talk a little bit with Monroeville officials, and one of the things that I was advised of was that there were only 2 SROs trained in the Monroeville program at this point in time. So while, yeah, there may be others in the future, there are only a couple now, and one of those individuals, has years of experience here with our
They both
students.
work at Gateway, correct?
Yeah.
Well, further, the SR that we had in the past is an Alice instructor. So again, if you want to continue with the school police force, you can certainly use the SRO to further advance the training of the school police force.
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually, the Pitcairn police officer also is Alice instructor trained.
The one that's currently out,
Yep, the one that will be back next week, correct?
who will be back next
May
week.
I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
Before you do that, I think wouldn't a motion be in order to bring this off the table, bring it off the table so that we can discuss it?
Okay, so we have a motion by Stephanie. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Mary Beth?
Okay. In 1 week, we'll have 5 SROs. We have 5 guys going to training next week. So I'm not sure that it's really necessary that whatever officer we bring in to fill in, which I think is a great idea. I think filling in is a great idea. I'm in favor of armed police, obviously. I don't know that it's required they would be an SRO because we'll have 5 within a week. My concern with Monroeville that I would like answers to would be, when we went to council, they were very adamant about a 5-year contract. Attorney Dice said we could very well have our case wrapped up by the end of this year, which is less than 2 months away. So the other question would be, are they willing to forego a 5-year contract and come in here on a temporary basis? And our other question, and we talked about last week, was trying to stay somewhat within budget is important, at least to me, as, and are they willing to come in at a lower cost? So when we approached Monroeville about keeping the SRO over the summer, they were adamant that they would not come down in cost. So to me, those are still issues that need to be considered, cost and the contract, because are you making a motion that we just bring somebody in until our court case is resolved? Or are you making a motion that, you know, we keep him longer than that?
Well, this current motion is until the school police decision is resolved. I would recommend certainly that once that has been resolved, to discuss it further and have another vote as to what this board would like to do in regards to having a Monroeville SRO.
And just for clarification, Steph, when you had made the motion, it was to reach out to Monroeville and see what the price was, what they were willing to do, if they were willing to work, correct?
Right.
Because I don't believe we're able to make a motion to hire someone without a
Without
cost,
knowing if-
without
Exactly.
a contract, without any understanding of any of that.
So we don't have those answers yet, correct?
How did the motion read?
The motion was to reach out to the municipality of Monroeville and ask for an SRO until the school police decision
Okay.
has been reached.
So it's more of fact-finding, correct? It's not
Correct.
employment.
Well, I mean, you have to go forth with a good faith effort, knowing that the school board, as a majority, is interested in pursuing.
Well, with that,
Well, only
bit-
if it's the, you know, right price, if the right people, if it's the right thing, like.
I mean, if they come back with a
because we have
5-year
security force now too, whom it has to fit in with those guys too. Like, you know, Mr. Key and Mr. Pawlowski is the head of our security. They're the head of our security.
Well,
Like, you know, I'm gonna defer most of our decisions to them because they're gonna tell me what they think.
Well, I would just say, you know, as board members, I think that we need to look at all information. I would caution anyone to vote on anything without us actually having information in front of us. I know last time we had approached council, they said it was a 5-year contract. It was the only way they were doing it, and it was $75,000. Again, this is a different circumstance. I think we should gather information, discuss it. With that being said, I would actually like to amend, so I make a motion to,
Before you make a motion to amend, somebody has to second Stephanie's motion.
Somebody did.
Valerie did.
Who did?
Val.
Valerie.
Okay.
So,
So that,
no. Well,
That was
but-
to remove it for discussion.
okay.
now there's been a motion to amend, there started to be.
Yeah. So I make a motion to amend and just reach out to multiple law enforcement agencies that administration sees fit in order for us to make an educated decision. I think we should have all the information. I think the taxpayers would appreciate that. So I make a motion to amend to broaden instead of just asking one police
I think
force.
George has some discussion on that.
Well, you need to
There's
second.
that question before you.
He needs a second, I think, on the motion.
Yes,
to amend.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
John seconds.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second to amend. Do we,
George wants to talk about it, I think.
Now you have to vote on the amendment first.
and then we can discuss.
George, it's discussion time.
Okay. George?
I can talk now?
Yep.
I got a question for Mary Beth. You know,
Yes,
you're
sir.
the chairperson for officers and everything.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You still know my feelings on the SROs in Monroeville.
Yes, I do.
Is there any way we could reach out to the Allegheny Police? Because I'm concerned of everything. We had one-armed policeman at the high school at all times before. I don't care who we get, Allegheny County. I would appreciate if you could look into that, because if something comes down and we needed somebody with a handgun in that building, our heads are gonna roll.
And that's what my amendment just did, is we'll reach out to multiple agencies, and that way the board will have multiple options to look over and discuss.
Okay, thank you.
You know, one of the things that, you know, one of the dynamics that's developed over the past year has been, unfortunately, a negative relationship between ourselves and the municipality of Monroeville. And I don't want to go back and revisit that, because there were many actors involved in bringing that. But I would, bringing that to be. But I'd like to see us open negotiations only with Monroeville, because I think we're better off reaching out to the municipality's police force that is essentially 90% of our own district, to determine whether or not we can work not only to repair the relationship, but also to get what would be considered by the board reasonable price reasonable terms and conditions. Because I think what Mary Beth said about previous positions taken was right. They wanted, I think, a 5-year agreement, so on and so forth. So I'd like us to stay just within the scope of going
But
to
wouldn't
the
that,
bill.
but wouldn't that happen if?
Hold on, Neil. Just for clarification, you just want to get one bid then for that?
I only want to open up the discussions at this point in time. I would prefer just with the municipality of Monroeville. Now,
Okay.
keep
I
in
just wanted to
mind,
clarify.
that we would be discussing bringing back, presumably, an officer who has all of the kind of years of experience that we would want. It wouldn't be someone who would have to be broken in new, so on and so forth. I think that would be in our best interest and the municipality's best interest. It would also work to repair the relationship if we were successful, but it could only be under terms and conditions that would be financially and otherwise acceptable.
I accept everything you say, except for one thing. And that would be, why can't we look at these other agencies and they'll give us a number? And what if that number's way less than, then we could go to Monroeville and say, hey, we really want you to do this. Could you please do it for this amount, or, maybe some increment a little bit more, or somewhere between? I mean, we have no idea unless we actually go find out.
Yeah, but the flip side to your argument is you don't know what the other side of what you're getting with other forces. So you don't know when you're getting from a county police officer if they have SRO training, if they are adept at handling high school children. You know what you're getting with the Monroeville Police Force. We have had him here before. It was a very positive experience. Why wouldn't you want that back?
I just want to interject one thing there. I don't think we do know what we're going to get, but that is completely up to the municipality of Monroeville. I haven't seen anything that says if they were to give us an SRO, it would be the same SRO as last year. So that's why I think the amended version of reaching out to Monroeville, Pitcairn, I would just say Pennsylvania State Police, Allegheny County Police, and Allegheny County Sheriff, since they all have jurisdiction within parts of our communities, would be the best decision. Then we would actually have multiple ones to look at. Monroeville might not be able to offer us. I know, their SRO that served here has been promoted and is actually in a higher up position. I don't know if that will be the case. So I think reaching out and seeing what are our options, I think, would be the best option for.
May I comment?
Hey,
May I comment now, Chad?
Yep.
One of my sayings in life I try to live by is a man with options has power. I think as long as you can get as many options as you can, that puts you in a position of strength in negotiation. One of our jobs here is to stay within budget and monitor the taxpayer money. I have a lot of friends who are Monroeville police officers, and I have a great respect for them, and they know that. And the problem with Monroeville is that they have priced themselves out of the market. So for us to go to them without any competition kind of basically says, give us whatever price you want, because we have no other options and we're not pursuing any other options. And I don't think that that's a good business decision. Now, let me give you an example. Last year, we paid for 2 police officers to work a football game through the municipality of Monroeville, $1,456 per game. This year, we're paying the sheriffs, who have the same powers, if not more, $705 per game. That's half. So who are we helping here if we're not willing to look at all options when we're going to answer to the public for how we spend their dollars? I think that it would be irresponsible to not at least look at other options. I'm not saying that we would have to go with the lowest price, but I'm saying to not give yourself options, to me, is not acceptable, and that we need to put all options on the table.
Jordan.
I just have one more question. Reaching out to everybody, you mentioned the Pitcairn SROs too. That disturbs me a little bit because they don't have no jurisdiction in Monroeville. But Allegheny has as much jurisdiction or more than the Monroeville SRO. That's why I'd like you to look into the Allegheny police instead of a Pitcairn SRO.
Yeah, and that's why my motion would be the 5 of them. So Monroeville, Pitcairn, Pennsylvania State Police, Allegheny County Police, and Allegheny County Sheriffs. And that way we can get information for everyone, and then we can look at it from there.
Let me raise another point of view with respect to what Neil said. I wouldn't want to sit down and enter into a negotiation in bad faith with the other organizations that we went out and solicited, so to speak, bids from, or what your cost was, and then necessarily use that to leverage Monroeville into a different or a lower number. I just think that's not fair to the others that would be coming forth in bidding. I also think that that we're quite capable, this board and management, quite capable of negotiating what we believe to be, the best deal, the best price for us, and the best terms and conditions for us as well. And again, I want to stress that by doing so, we get a person back, I think we would get, and that could be certainly part of our position, a person back in the saddle who knows and understands the kids, who knows our district well, who has all of the jurisdiction that is necessary. So we get the armed police officer, we get all the collateral benefits, and then in addition to that, we've opened up a pathway to repair the relationship with the district. That's important too, because Scotty, if he can hear me, would be able to elaborate on this more than I, but we oftentimes go to them for other kinds of services that are important. We want to use a high lift, or we want some special arrangement, or buy things through them. And those are all things that are conditioned upon the quality of the relationship that we have. Our relationship with them has deteriorated to a level that I've not seen in my previous term or during this year. I'm not pointing fingers. It's happened, it's happened. So another important collateral benefit would be to, through this, going back to Monroeville, would be to repair that relationship.
I agree, but I think that we found out one time, and I think we should do our homework again in terms of, if we even asked the administration and/or our security force what their opinions are, like, I mean, I would like to know if they think that would be beneficial for them, or is it just like, we don't care what they say, it's just whatever we're gonna think is right, or should we ask them? Like, should we ask, like, our security force, how you feeling in the schools? What's the status, right? Like, because I personally think that we are way more secure than we were before, because we have more people performing that task.
This isn't a question, though, of going back to them and asking for their point of view. I think the question is, do we or don't we want an armed officer, which we do not have now, in that position?
We have one that's coming back next week. We could rotate them around. Maybe that's an option. There should be options to figure out what's the best thing for us to do.
You talked about repairing relationships too. To me, that's a two-way street, Steve.
I agree.
And Monroeville could make a gesture to come in for free if they wanted to, for a month, and put an officer in our schools.
Sure.
That would be a really nice gesture.
I agree.
So there's a two-way relationship. I'm very willing to look at working with them, but I'm also committed to staying within budget. And remember, when we had budgeted $50,000 for an SRO, and they wouldn't agree to that price, and we spent that additional monies on other things for the school police. So if you have the intention of furthering this, which I think you do, to bringing him back long-term, we'll probably be about $100,000 over budget. So,
Right, but I mean, wasn't it your intention also to give the school police jurisdiction?
no, they were going to have ability to write summary offenses and misdemeanors, that's all.
Right, and currently we don't have anyone with the ability to do so.
Is
So-
that a problem, Mr.
We actually,
Pulaski?
we do, we have,
Is that a problem that Stephanie says that we don't have anybody who can write?
Why don't we not try to put
yeah.
John or
I
anybody
don't wanna do
else
that.
on the spot
I
in the
would
middle of
say-
these
I would argue that we
conversations?
do, we have 40-some individuals willing to
Yeah.
do so. Just like we have for years, if there's ever a case where a student or an employee or anyone rises to the level that an offense needs a summary or felony or anything like that, we call the Monroeville Police in. That's the same, that's how most school districts operate. That's how, if something at the mall happens, they call the Monroeville Police, they write a summary offense. Something happens at a Steelers game, they don't have their own police force, they call the Pittsburgh Police and they write the offense. So yes, I would agree that, or I would argue that we do have a multitude of people able to issue citations available by dialing 3 numbers.
It sounds to me like this board has a substantial agreement on almost all of the issues or facts that we're throwing out here. We agree we want somebody back in there with an armed officer. The only thing that might present itself as a problem is, do we just go to Monroeville, try to negotiate the best deal that we believe we can, or do we pass a motion that asks us to go out and solicit agreements or deals from the sheriff's office or state police or somebody else? I think that's pretty much the essence, isn't it?
I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's, and we have two different points of view on it.
Yep. So
We're probably ready for a vote on it.
Very good. Any other new or additional questions or comments?
Here's a question I'm gonna have. Who's, I don't know if Buddy's coming in, but, you know, talking about going out to all these different entities and getting quotes or whatever, we would like, I personally would like to get somebody in as soon as possible, and going out and, you know, seeing what the county sheriffs are gonna do or what the state police will do. I mean, let's start off with Monroeville and see what Monroeville has to offer, see if it works within our budget. I mean, that's the first thing. Then if not, then branch out. But I think that we should go, my personal feeling goes straight to Monroeville, talk with them. I know they're willing to sit down. I would like to get them in as soon as possible.
Very good. Scotty, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I sort of agree now, and I know that short should be the one that can report back, but
Mr. Short.
He wants you to
Mr.
reach
Short
out
should reach out
to
and report back
Monroeville and
to us.
report back to the board.
To all agencies or just primarily Monroeville?
I think
I think
he
he's
said
saying Monroeville.
Monroeville. I think.
Yeah. All right. So, any other new additional questions or comments?
Before we close the conversation here, I think this recording secretary should note that Neil said he agreed with me on almost everything, which I think is important. That's right, John, exactly. So I just wanted to add that. Otherwise, I'm ready to vote.
Very good. Getting back to business. So, the
So I'd like to-
amended,
you
the
asked
amendment,
the question twice if anybody had anything else to say, so I'm waiting for a.
okay. Jonathan?
Raise your
To
hand
speak.
or speak
I
up.
have to raise my hand. All right. So it is true that it would be good to have good relationships with one of the organizations that were mentioned, but any of the organizations that we picked, we could develop good relationships with them, and they would all have something good to bring to the table. Number two, we know that the Monroeville SRO, has a good relationship with the kids, but it's also true that whoever we might pick from one of the other agencies might have better relationships, better experiences with kids in high school and junior high and elementary school. We don't know. They might have better, they might have worse. And since we don't know that, it's proper for us to ask those questions and get the answers. Third, as was already mentioned, the SRO that exists, that we have a good relationship with, that we really like, he may not be available. So if we negotiate strictly with one organization that's Monroeville, we might not get the one that we hope to get. So I think therefore, for those three reasons, it's reasonable for us to ask the questions.
Very good. Thank you, John. So, for clarification, as to what we are voting on here. So, there was a motion and a second to amend the original motion. So, the motion that we will be voting on currently is to reach out to Monroeville, Pitcairn, Pennsylvania State Police, Allegheny County Police, and Allegheny County Sheriffs to see if they are able to provide an additional officer and what costs would be associated with that.
And that Mr. Short would perform the action and report back to the board. Is that right?
Correct. Administration would be reaching out. So a yes vote would be to reach out to the 5 agencies I just mentioned. A no vote would be not to reach out to the 5 agencies. Bonnie, if you could do roll call, please.
Do you need a second for that?
We had a motion. and a
Yeah,
second. Yep.
Mrs. Cerrucci,
Yes.
Mr. Lapsevich,
Yes.
Mr. Nola,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
No.
Mr. Ritter,
Yes.
Mr. Stubenbort,
Yes.
Mrs. Warning,
No.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mrs. Byrne.
No.
Okay. Motion passes 6-3. Okay. So with that being voted